There's something haunting about certain worlds that games have created throughout the years. Games such as Super Mario 64, Majora's Mask, Gary's Mod, all harbor some element of unease in their maps and worlds. This unease stems from a phenomenon that has gained fame in recent years. That phenomenon is liminal spaces. Liminal space is a concept rooted in familiarity. Derived from the Latin word limen, meaning threshold, liminal spaces are traditionally defined as transitional areas, like hallways, doorways, or waiting rooms. However, in a more psychological sense, they can also represent phases of life where one experiences a transition, whether that be emotional or physical. More recently defined by the internet, however, liminal spaces have become a symbol for the creepy and uncanny, with concepts such as the backrooms gaining popularity. If you want more on the backrooms, you can check out the previous video on liminal space. Though, for us, we will be moving into a more interactive side of liminal spaces. The world of dead video games.
It's me, Mario! Hello!
Let me introduce you to the world of Super Mario 64. For most viewers, this game needs no introduction, as it serves to be revolutionary both in the Mario franchise and game development in general. Super Mario 64 was a 1996 Nintendo release of the Mario franchise, and was the first in the series to be set in 3D. And while the game itself serves to be very enjoyable, as time has gone on, many have begun to comment on the creepier side of the game. The halls of the castle, the isolation in the expansive space of the castle, the feeling of always having something else roaming around the halls. It is through all these factors that makes Super Mario 64 reflect on the concepts of liminal space. Take for instance the center hall of the castle itself. A vast open space containing most of the doors and paintings leading to the different worlds the game has to offer. And while those other levels are teeming with life, the castle is left desolate and empty, with this lingering essence of ghosts and shadows surrounding you. This feeling on its own wouldn't be too alarming, but it's the simple fact that the game isn't trying to create this atmosphere that leaves it eerie. A sense of dread builds off the simple fact that the player is left alone and isolated, building a sense of paranoia that couldn't be reached otherwise. Our next game on the list sits in a similar vein to that of Mario 64. Let me introduce you to Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask was an entry into the Zelda franchise that served as a pivotal game for both the gaming industry and to many personally. And while it serves to be a fantastic game in terms of enjoyment, its atmosphere cannot be overlooked. Released in 2000 for the Nintendo 64, Majora's Mask diverged from usual Zelda adventures, offering a much darker and more foreboding experience. From the moment one enters the game, you're hit with an overwhelming sense of unease. Terminia, the world you play in, is a world on the brink of destruction, and the moon is falling from the sky. Throughout the town and different areas of the game, players are left with feelings of loneliness and liminality. Through all the tunnels, caverns, and environments throughout the game, the uncanny aspects are readily apparent. Majora's Mask unease is amplified by the legends and creepypastas spread online after its release, such as the famous creepypasta, Ben Drowned. Ben Drowned follows the story of a player who acquires a cursed copy of the game, which is haunted by the spirit of a boy named Ben who tragically drowned. As the player progresses through the game, strange and terrifying glitches begin to occur. Link's movements become erratic, disturbing music plays, and cryptic messages appear, as if the game itself is alive and malevolent. The Ben Drowned story taps into the same feeling of isolation, unease, and liminality that Majora's Mask naturally invokes. The idea that something as familiar and nostalgic as the game itself could become twisted and haunted adds a layer of horror to the experience. The haunted cartridge, with its unsettling imagery and inexplicable occurrences, transformed the game into a portal to something darker, a place where the boundaries between the digital and supernatural blur. Majora's Mask's themes follow the battle to stay alive against an impending formidable doom, reflects on the transitional phase of liminality, a threshold between worlds, and a player caught in the desperate attempt to save an uncanny world.
Oh, shit.
Welcome to the world of Anopolis. A game, or rather, an experience exploring the world of liminal spaces. Anopolis serves more as a visual and environmental experience, putting the story on the back burner while placing emphasis on exploration of its eerie and vast environments. The game itself immerses the player in spaces that serve to be both familiar yet uncanny, reflecting upon the themes developed by liminality. Everything feels out of place, out of time, and unnervingly disturbing. Yet at the same moment, you feel this sense of comfort and familiarity. As you traverse through these environments the game has to offer, you find yourself in a mall, a swimming pool, a spa, all normal mundane locations. But something feels off. Every corner you turn, every hallway you travel down, there's no one, nothing, not even a sound to speak of. Everything feels so alive and dead at the same time, leaving only this empty feeling and uncomfort. What makes Anopolis so compelling is its ability to invoke these deeper feelings of dread and comfort all at once. It's not as if the game itself is interesting because of any mechanics or tasks, but through its perfection of atmosphere and environment does it pique the interest of many. Anopolis is not just a game to be played, but a grouping of spaces to be experienced. As of writing, only Chapter 1 is out now, but I would encourage all, if interested, to give it a try and experience the environments on your own. I think this is the best way to emphasize the underlying themes of uncanny loneliness and blissful comfort that follows liminality. Stemming out of the world of Anopolis, I would like to introduce you to a game called No Players Online. No Players Online is a short horror game that immerses the player in what seems like an old, online first-person shooter. Reminiscent of the classic titles like Quake, the experience begins with the player logging onto an outdated shooter game, only to discover that no other players are online. Despite this, you join a lobby and start a game of Capture the Flag. However, this is when things take a terrifying turn. After some time, you begin to notice a shadowy figure lurking within the game. These eerie encounters build up to a moment where the player is left paralyzed as the shadow approaches. Suddenly, the game takes an even more disturbing twist. The developer of the game intervenes, revealing that their deceased spouse is trapped within the game. The developer is desperately trying to save them, and completing the game would end everything. They plead with you not to deliver the flag, repeating their plea until the game crashes and abruptly ends. If, however, you choose not to deliver the flag and log off, logging back on will prompt the dev to ask you why you have returned, ultimately resulting in the dev logging onto the game himself, with his eye being visible in the corner of the map. Shooting the eye of the developer, however, results in something even more interesting. I've realized after writing this portion of the video that the game has since been updated, with a lot more lore and story to it than when I played it years ago. I won't cover the extent of the story in this video, so if you wish to find out the rest, I would recommend playing it yourself or finding another reputable content creator who may have already covered the topic. The meaning of No Players Online is intentionally obscure, leaving players with a lingering sense of eerie confusion and uncanny discomfort. The game taps into a horror of not being alone in what is supposed to be a solitary experience, a trope that has haunted the gaming community since the days of Gary's Mod and Minecraft's mythical Herobrine. To me, this game perfectly captures a side of liminality where fear thrives, overshadowing the familiar and comforting aspects, leaving the player with nothing but the terror of the unknown. The world of worlds.com. Welcome to one of the oldest, creepiest, still active MMOs. Worlds.com, also known as Worlds Online, or simply just Worlds, opened in the latter half of the 90s, releasing in April 1995. Upon its release, it pioneered the online MMO space, offering one of the first massively multiplayer online experiences, included with the ability to interact with other players' avatars, as well as chat with other online users. The whole experience was housed in the virtual space of Worlds Online, with users being able to traverse the various maps available and seeing everything they had to offer. However, the curious wonder and fascination with the virtual world of the MMO is quickly shadowed by how strange and odd the landscapes can begin to feel. Logging onto the game to investigate, I surprisingly found myself surrounded by other players. After some initial investigation of the lobby, I then began to travel throughout the map. What I found was a lifeless, desolate location. Places that felt like they should be populated, yet they were left empty and abandoned. The best way I could describe the experience is as if you were going into what felt like should be a lively club or party, but the moment you enter, you realize that it's the opposite. Everything is left on and running, yet there's no one there for it to be running for. Business is running as usual, but this time there's no business. It leaves you with a strange feeling of loneliness and unease, as if you shouldn't be here because nobody else is. I can't speak for any of you, but I've had moments in my life where I was alone, and I couldn't help but have thought, I wonder if I'm the only person who exists right now. This kind of thought, while unrealistic in the real world, is how Worlds Online came across. Even seeing other players at the start, the moment you begin to walk around and explore, you're suddenly alone. And for me, I remained alone for the rest of my trip. This left me with this unnatural feeling of isolation. A game meant to serve as a social environment, only now it's the exact opposite, leaving the player empty, alone, and uncomfortable. The game, in legend, also harbors what is seemingly a cult. Though I won't get into the details today, you can search for it online in various outlets. I realize as of writing this that Worlds.com servers are currently offline. I don't know whether this is permanent or not, but if anyone else is trying to log on, as of right now, the online servers are offline. So this video may serve as a time capsule of sorts. The liminality felt in isolation is a strange emotion. If you ever wish to experience this for yourself, I would invite you to log on to Worlds.com and explore the various worlds it has to offer. Even if the online client is currently down, you can still access the offline client and explore at your leisure. Enjoy your liminal spaces, my friends. In the backwaters of worlds that encompass gaming, you can find some unintentionally haunting and eerie landscapes. From the loneliness of a world like Super Mario 64, to the intentional but mysterious world of Anopolis. Liminal space in gaming proves to be a noticeable stain on the fabric of what gaming is supposed to be, leaving nothing but unease and fear in the minds of many, in place of what should have been wonder and enjoyment. Thank you so much for taking your time out of the day to watch this video. It means a lot to me and motivates me to make more of this kind of content. I hope you'll consider coming back and watching more of what I have to offer. That's all. I hope you enjoyed everything again, and
thank you for watching.